Book 5, Chapter 8 of the Antiquities of the Jews, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anne Boulay. The Antiquities of the Jews, Volume 1, by Flavius Josephus, translated by William Whiston. Book 5, Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Concerning the fortitude of Samson, and what mischiefs he brought upon the Philistines. After Abdon was dead, the Philistines overcame the Israelites, and received tribute of them for 40 years, from which distress they were delivered after this manner. There was one Manoah, a person of such great virtue that he had few men his equals, and without dispute the principal person of his country. He had a wife celebrated for her beauty and excelling her contemporaries. He had no children, and, being uneasy at his want of posterity, he entreated God to give them seed of their own bodies to succeed them, and with that intent he came constantly into the suburbs together with his wife, which suburbs were in the great plain. Now he was fond of his wife to a degree of madness, and on that account was unmeasurably jealous of her. Now, when his wife was once alone, an apparition was seen by her. It was an angel of God, and resembled a young man beautiful and tall, and brought her the good news that she should have a son, born by God's providence, that should be a goodly child, of great strength, by whom, when he was grown up to man's estate, the Philistines should be afflicted. He exhorted her not to poll his hair, and that he should avoid all other kinds of drink, for so God had commanded, and be entirely contented with water. So the angel, when he had delivered that message, went his way, his coming having been by the will of God. Now the wife informed her husband when he came home of what the angel had said, who showed so great an admiration of the beauty and tallness of the young man that had appeared to her, that her husband was astonished, and out of himself for jealousy, and such suspicions as are excited by that passion. But she was desirous of having her husband's unreasonable sorrow taken away. Accordingly she entreated God to send the angel again, that he might be seen by her husband. So the angel came again by the favor of God, while they were in the suburbs, and appeared to her when she was alone without her husband. She desired the angel to stay so long till she might bring her husband, and that request being granted, she goes to call Manoah. When he saw the angel he was not yet free from suspicion, and he desired him to inform him of all that he had told his wife. But when he said it was sufficient that she alone knew what he had said, he then requested of him to tell who he was, that when the child was born they might return him thanks and give him a present. He replied that he did not want any present, for that he did not bring them the good news of the birth of a son out of the want of anything. And when Manoah entreated him to stay and partake of his hospitality, he did not give his consent. However, he was persuaded, at the earnest request of Manoah, to stay so long as while he brought him one mark of his hospitality. So he slew a kid of the goats, and bid his wife boil it. When all was ready, the angel enjoined him to set the loaves and the flesh, but without the vessels, upon the rock, which when they had done, he touched the flesh with the rod which he had in his hand, which, upon breaking out of a flame, was consumed, together with the loaves. And the angel ascended openly, in their sight, up to heaven, by means of the smoke, as by a vehicle. Now Manoah was afraid that some danger would come to them from this sight of God, but his wife bade him be of good courage, for that God appeared to them for their benefit. So the woman proved with child, and was careful to observe the injunctions that were given her, and they called the child, when he was born, Samson, which name signifies one that is strong. So the child grew apace, and it appeared evidently that he would be a prophet, both by the moderation of his diet and the permission of his hair to grow. Now when once he came with his parents to Timhath, a city of the Philistines, when there was a great festival, he fell in love with a maid of that country, and he desired his parents that they would procure him the damsel for his wife. But they refused to do so, because she was not of the stock of Israel. Yet because this marriage was of God, who intended to convert it to the benefit of the Hebrews, he overpersuaded them to procure her to be espoused to him. And as he was continually coming to her parents, he met a lion, and though he was naked, he received his onset, and strangled him with his hands, and cast the wild beast into a woody piece of ground on the inside of the road. And when he was going another time to the damsel, he lit upon a swarm of bees making their combs in the breast of that lion. And taking 3 honeycombs away, he gave them, together with the rest of his presents, to the damsel. Now the people of Timhath, out of the dread of the young man's strength, gave him during the time of the wedding feast, for he then feasted them all 30 of the most stout of their youth, in pretense to be his companions, but in reality to be a guard upon him, that he might not attempt to give them any disturbance. Now as they were drinking merrily and playing, Samson said, as was usual at such times, "Come, if I propose you a riddle, and you can expound it in these 7 days' time, I will give you every one a linen shirt and a garment, as the reward of your wisdom." So they, being very ambitious to obtain the glory of wisdom, together with the gains, desired him to propose his riddle. He, that a devourer produced sweet food out of itself, though itself were very disagreeable. And when they were not able, in 3 days' time, to find out the meaning of the riddle, they desired the damsel to discover it by means of her husband, and tell it them, and they threatened to burn her if she did not tell it them. So when the damsel entreated Samson to tell it her, he at first refused to do it. But when she laid hard at him and fell into tears, and made his refusal to tell it a sign of his unkindness to her, he informed her of his slaughter of a lion, and how he found bees in his breast, and carried away 3 honeycombs, and brought them to her. Thus he, suspecting nothing of deceit, informed her of all, and she revealed it to those that desired to know it. Then on the 7th day, whereon they were to expound the riddle proposed to them, they met together before sunsetting, and said, "Nothing is more disagreeable than a lion to those that light on it, and nothing is sweeter than honey to those that make use of it." To which Samson made this rejoinder, "Nothing is more deceitful than a woman, for such was the person that discovered my interpretation to you." Accordingly he gave them the presents he had promised them, making such Ascalonites as he met upon the road his prey, who were themselves Philistines also. But he divorced this his wife, and the girl despised his anger, and was married to his companion, who made the former match between them. At this injurious treatment Samson was so provoked, that he resolved to punish all the Philistines, as well as her. So it being then summertime, and the fruits of the land being almost ripe enough for reaping, he caught 300 foxes, and joined lighted torches to their tails. He sent them into the fields of the Philistines, by which means the fruits of the fields perished. Now when the Philistines knew that this was Samson's doing, and knew also for what cause he did it, they sent their rulers to Timhath, and burnt his former wife, and her relations, who had been the occasion of their misfortunes. Now when Samson had slain many of the Philistines in the plain country, he dwelt at Etam, which is a strong rock of the tribe of Judah, for the Philistines at that time made an expedition against that tribe. But the people of Judah said they did not act justly with them, in inflicting punishments upon them while they paid their tribute, and this only on account of Samson's offenses. They answered, that in case they would not be blamed themselves, they must deliver up Samson, and put him into their power. So they, being desirous not to be blamed themselves, came to the rock with 3,000 armed men, and complained to Samson of the bold insults he made upon the Philistines, who were men able to bring calamity upon the whole nation of the Hebrews. And they told him they were come to take him, and to deliver him up to them, and put him into their power. So they desired him to bear this willingly. Accordingly, when he had received assurance from them upon oath, that they would do him no other harm than only to deliver him into his enemies' hands, he came down from the rock, and put himself into the power of his countrymen. Then did they bind him with 2 cords, and lead him on, in order to deliver him to the Philistines. And when they came to a certain place, which is now called the Jawbone, on account of the great action there performed by Samson, though of